Harvey Smith, who's worked as a carpenter, public health worker, and researcher, radio journalist, horse rancher, and teacher, is a project advisor to California's Living New Deal project and a board president of the National New Deal Preservation Association. He's got a Master's of Public Health from UC Berkeley and holds a teaching credential. And we asked Harvey if he would just speak for a few minutes about what the New Deal was, perhaps, so to speak, what the New Deal is, and how we might learn from it.
Thanks for the opportunity for me to share my thoughts on the old and New Deal, New Deal. You mentioned one of the organizations I work with is California's Living New Deal project, and that's a growing collaborative effort to identify, map, interpret, and commemorate the New Deal. And we're definitely looking for involvement from Marin County. I've got some brochures that people can take after the presentation. First, a little background on the Great Depression. Let's go back to the 20s. The prohibition of a drug called alcohol created widespread crime and violence. The economy was up, but there was also the widest gap in income, just like right now. Then the economic collapse begins with the 1929 stock market crash. The Great Depression left millions unemployed. But remember, there was no social safety net, no unemployment insurance, no Social Security. Franklin Delano Roosevelt's statement, which sums up the direction of the New Deal, is probably the best to really encapsulate this. The test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much, it is whether we provide enough for those who have too little. Turn this quote around 180 degrees and you get the direction of the last administration. This also helps us to understand the current revisionism about the New Deal expressed by some members of Congress, the Cato Institute, and others. The sides of the argument about the New Deal are expressed for me by two visual images from Washington, D.C. One, a T-shirt seen in the Union Station souvenir shop emblazoned with, "I love my country, it's the government I'm afraid of." And then there's a New Deal statue in front of the Federal Trade Commission building of a monumental horse being restrained by a thickly muscled man, a metaphor for people, the people, reigning in corporate power, or for that matter, governmental power. So people can argue over statistics about the New Deal, but that's really the third thing that I like to deal with. First, let the people who participated in the New Deal or benefited directly from it tell the real firsthand story. I've been fortunate to interview many of these 90-year-olds. Second, the New Deal's physical legacy surrounds us, and we're still dependent on it today. Locally, the employment provided by just one project here in Marin County, the building of Hamilton Field, was said to have saved Marin County. To try to get an indication of what the New Deal accomplished, let me just give a sampling of the so-called alphabet soup agencies. In the interest of time, I'll give you just the acronyms, but I'm sure you'll recognize most of them. The 100 Days was a flurry of legislation that established the CCC, HOLC, FDIC, and PWA. Programs after the 100 Days included CWA, SEC, FCC, FHA, WPA, FSA, REA, NYA, NLRA, SSA. But again, that's just a sample. All these programs represent long-term public investment. They had an impact on California communities then, and we're benefiting from that infrastructure decades later. We would call many of these green projects, but others we would certainly do differently or not at all today. However, they represent in total comprehensive and progressive public policy. FDR probably would have kept going after World War II, given his unfinished work. In his 1944 State of the Union address, FDR proposed the Second Bill of Rights. That is, he posited that human beings have inherent economic rights. However, soon after his death, the attacks on the New Deal heightened. Three key areas affected by New Deal deregulation are labor, media, and finance. Just to look at one, looking at the area of media, I see the new digital TV changeover as a massive giveaway to corporations. What is the public getting in return? My way of thinking is the entire country should, at this point, be getting free C-SPAN, plus free state, county, and city legislative coverage. Also now, newspapers are disappearing. What can be more essential to maintaining democracy than the strong watchdog of journalism? Isn't it time for us to take action and propose a national endowment for journalism modeled on the WPA, which would fund out-of-work journalists through nonprofits? Let me give an example of action taken by our professor and students at San Jose State University. They introduced in Congress the Gulf Coast Civil Works Act, which would create 100,000 green living wage jobs and training opportunities for Gulf Coast residents and displaced people to rebuild critical infrastructure, restore natural flood protection, and increase energy efficiency. H.R. 2269 is also based on the model of the WPA. I was recently in Washington, D.C., and I was thinking on the way over here about the distance between D.C. and California, or us right here very close to the coast. And I realized although D.C. is the center of political power, that in many ways California is a counterbalance to that. We can lead in creativity and innovation, and I see that work hopefully happening here. We must remember that the New Deal was the result of an intelligent and inspired leadership at the top and public discourse and enormous activism at the grassroots. It established a new social contract for the American people. So what can we do? Just a few things I'd like to suggest. Talk to people about the options for comprehensive public policy. So we take public policy and split it up and address one or the other. That wasn't what really we have to seek out alternative news, and that's increasingly more important. And then we must organize in any way that works for the individual, anyway. And I'd just like to end by saying, si se puede.